Hey, my friends and relationship builders, fellow relationship builders. Welcome back to Mondays with Moss. You know, we're jumping around a little bit. Sometimes we do this program on Sunday, sometimes Monday. At the time, we've always been doing it at 11:15. And sometimes I got to change it around because of Judy's schedule and my schedule. Today, unfortunately, she's seeing clients and can't make it. I have some time before I start seeing clients at 2. So I thought I would jump in and we'll kind of do an off on. It might work out that once a week I'll set up the situation, the skill, the relationship skill that we want to focus on. And the other week she'll join me and we'll demonstrate it. We'll demonstrate how not to do this particular skill and how to do it, okay? So we've been looking at recently 10 habits that successful couples or partners practice. They may not always succeed. I mean, Judy and I have a pretty decent relationship. I think my daughters and I have a decent relationship. But there are times we slip, a slip of tongue, a look. Sometimes, you can't really tell what your face looks like, but you may give a grimace, a tone, and before you know it, the other person's offended or takes it personally. So we've covered 4 skills thus far. Number 1, stop judging. Successful couples don't judge, they're curious. They want to understand why this other person has that particular point of view or that feeling. They don't take the other feeling or opinion personally. They just think, okay, I don't understand it. I don't have to take it personally, but I want to understand it. So they're curious. Number 2, they know how to stand their ground without putting their other partner down. Once they are curious, they find out what the person is thinking or feeling, they can say, I just have a different look at it. Let me tell you how I see it. Thirdly, they seek to understand first, not second. Why? Well, because people seem to do better if you take the time to say, I don't quite understand what you're saying or how you're thinking, what you're thinking. I'm not saying I'm right, but help me understand it. What that seems to do is it lowers the neurotransmitters in our body that cause us to feel fearful or angry, adrenaline and cortisol. But they also allow the other person to have a really good hormone secreted in the bloodstream called oxytocin, which is the bonding hormone. So if you seek to understand first, it lowers the person's pressure, anger, and they feel good. Hi, Herb, good to see you. A third skill that successful couples do is it's the fourth. They give equal regard. That means you don't have to give equal time, but you got to somehow let your other partner know that you're interested in hearing what they have to say. Which, by the way, if you know you can stand your ground, you're just waiting for the time is right for you to say, okay, I hear you, I think I understand you, but I have a different take on that. So those are the 4 skills we've looked at so far. The 5th one is a very important one because often when you're arguing, we get stuck in arguments. We get into who's right, who's wrong, counter criticisms. Oh yeah? Well, what about you? I had a couple do this recently. He said something about her not doing the dishes, so she came back with, oh yeah, but you never clean the bedroom up. That's a counter criticism. Just like no 2 cars can intersect an intersection at the same time, no 2 criticisms can occupy the same space at the same time. One person goes at a time. Another one, what happens when we get stuck in arguments, we just shut down. We stonewall. We just stop talking. We move away. And another one, we go back to the old reliable judging and blaming. So none of that enhances connection. The purpose of these positive, successful habits is they allow us to stay connected so the oxytocin can be secreted, that we feel safe and connected to the other person. So one way to influence your partner, excuse me, is to offer reassurance. So yeah, let's say you're having an argument, okay? Now, I'm going to set the stage before, because I don't want to take it personally if I'm in an argument with somebody. So I might say, hey, just time out. I'm really not saying you're wrong. I apologize if I come across that way. I think I got worked up and probably my voice raised. I think we just have different opinions about what happened. Okay? So let's go back to help me understand it from your point of view. That's the third key skill. Seek to understand first. So when you're in an argument, you need to notice you're in an argument, and you got to watch what your brain is saying, your mind is saying to you. Is it saying, she's wrong, you're right, she won the argument last time, I'm not going to let her win again. I don't like being bullied. You might be taking it personally. You got to be able to observe your thinking about what's occurring. Just because you feel upset, hurt, or angry, or fearful doesn't mean you're right. It's just a feeling that got triggered because you have a difference of opinion, probably, or you're not getting what you want. So here's how you might do it. You take a deep breath. To just kind of let the relaxation response start to take. Stop judging, go back to being curious. Seek to find out what's understandable about your partner's opinion or argument. Give some equal regard. And now stand your ground and say what you're thinking and feeling. So we're not solving the problem, but you're maintaining respect, equal caring, and keeping a sense of connection. I think if you have those three in place, you can then solve the problem. So I want to give you an example. A couple of weeks ago, I'm seeing a married couple. They have a couple of teenage kids. The 14-year-old boy is having trouble in school, getting into some difficulty. And then the situation was the father at dinner was trying to have a conversation with his son and be empathic and compassionate, kind of putting himself in his son's shoes. He would say something, when I was your age, 7th, 8th grade, I didn't do very well in algebra. I felt really bad about it. I imagine you're feeling really pretty crummy. And the boy said, I really feel crummy. Then he started to blame the teacher or something like that. The wife steps in, having a sound in her voice that sounded irritable, and she says, what this is about is you're just stressed out and you don't handle yourself very well in class. You hate to be wrong. The father, her husband, stared at her with annoyance, finished up the conversation with his son as best he could, and then stonewalled her for about an hour. He just walked away, but he had a look on his face of self-disgust, like that. And he cleared his voice, which he seems to do when he's disgusted and judgmental. She shut up, fortunately, pulled away. About an hour later, after this was over, she got in her car. She felt like calling him up and putting him down because she felt embarrassed that he said that and behaved that way in front of their son. She got to the office, talked to her friend, had a cup of tea or coffee, and then said, hey, look, I'm not feeling connected. Something happened and I'm not feeling connected. She remembered the goal of good relationship skill building is to stay connected in a positive way. So I think she did something quite brilliant. She called him up and said, hey, I really don't know how I came across with Jake. Let's say the son's name is Jake this morning, but you looked really, really annoyed and pretty disdainful with me. Can you tell me what I might have done that annoyed you? So what skill did she use there? She used, first of all, she took a primary skill, which underlies everything. She took responsibility. After she took it personally, she thought about it, had a cup of tea, calmed down. Then she sought to understand his point of view. She did a really good job listening. And she said at one point, I think I really get it now. So when I interrupted you and I said, I think, Jake, you're just stressed and you're not taking care of stress and you're blaming somebody else for it, you felt that as not being very empathetic. And he said, yeah, I really, really did. And she said, well, I could understand that. Sometimes I get a tone. anything else you want to say about that? He said, no, I think you really understand it. I appreciate that. And then she said, well, can I share my thought with you about what I was doing? I'm trying not to be defensive, but now she's standing her ground, and I'm not putting him down. Sometimes when I'm empathetic, I give advice. I do it giving a direction. I tell the person what's going on rather than playing it back like you do. You do a much better job acknowledging and listening and saying, I think I understand that, tell me more. Sometimes I just want to jump to the conclusion, you're just stressed and you're blaming someone else for your failure or misery. I can definitely see where that's not empathic. And I'll check with Jake later to see if what I said annoyed him, made him feel bad, and if so, I'll apologize and let him know. Sometimes when I worry about him, I jump to giving advice and telling him what to do rather than saying, gee, Jake, I'm really sorry you're having a hard time. Tell me, would you like to tell me about it? I'd like to better understand it and maybe figure out what Dad and I could do to help. Okay, so that's the skill called offer assurance. Offer assurance that you're not judging, putting the other person down, telling him you're right, he's wrong. You're not trying to win the battle, win the argument. He's like she did. Hey, I'm not sure what I did, but you sounded and looked pretty annoyed with me. Did I say something this morning with Jake? Did I behave in any way that was upsetting for you? And that drew him out. Now she can have influence because she could take her stand her ground, express what she's saying after she's finished understanding him, and then they can figure out where to go from there. So I thought that was a pretty good conclusion to what could have lasted 2 or 3 days of anger, stonewalling, and nitpicking, criticizing each other over little things. Okay, I hope that was helpful. And I hope next week I can get Judy to take a little time from her really busy schedule so we can act this one out, so you can see it in action between two people, husband and wife, and that will give us our 5th useful skill, successful skill, and then we'll go to number 6, maybe next week or the week after. So anyway, hope you have a warmish day. I got my Cambodian scarf on, which is nice and warm and cozy, sitting down here in my new office at my house. By the way, the offices are coming along in Rosemont. As many of you know, we moved from 125 Coulter to 1062 Lancaster. The phone systems are not quite working, so if you're trying to reach me or a number of other people there, be patient. Hopefully we'll get it handled this week. And also, maybe I'll talk to you next week. Well, Judy and I will talk about how we're handling a frustration and a complaint that we have that's been lasting for 3 weeks about how the phone company is handling this problem. Okay? Anyway, be well, my friends and fellow relationship builders. Talk to you soon. Love to hear from you. Bye-bye.